Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:03. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. It is Wednesday, October 3rd. 56 degrees outside, going up to about a high of 72. I'm in studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
And we have an intern in training with us this morning, Abby Taylor. Is Abby's mic on?
Yes, it's on.
It is. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning.
She has no problem jumping in.
There you go. Abby is a Westfield State University student, and I didn't know that Westfield State University students knew that there was a 6:04 a.m., but apparently, Abby, you do.
No, she was here bright and early yesterday, too, around 7.
Yeah,
so.
Thank you. So we have a full slate this morning. We will be joined shortly by our resident, WSKB resident chiropractic physician, Dr. Gary Gorman. Yes, he's related, so he'll be joining us at about 6:15. And later on this morning, we have 2 or 3, not sure which yet, guests from Bay State Noble
They
Hospital.
didn't properly RSVP?
Well, they did. They properly RSVP'd with 2 of them, and then kept saying there might be a third. There might be a
wait,
third.
there's more.
I know. I said it's going to get a little tight in there, but that's fine. So it's, as of last night, still not sure. I checked my email when I came in this morning. Still
Okay.
no definite word on that, but at least 2. Bay State Noble Hospital will be doing a hernia clinic coming up. So we're going to talk about that, or we're going to talk about what exactly is a hernia. There are lots of different types. I know this because I listened to Weird Al Yankovic when he did his
and he illustrates them all.
and he does. It's absolutely
Favorite song
hysterical.
of mine.
It's a great song. So anyway, we have lots going on today. Pete, we are going to start with the ever popular national days because, Pete, this is your day.
Oh, boy.
Did you know that October 3rd is National Techies Day?
No.
It's you.
Well, there it is. National Techies Day is observed annually on October 3rd. During National Techies Day, students are encouraged to consider a career in technology. So here's how this all came about. In California, the birthplace of many modern technological innovations, the 2012 report Technology Works, High-Tech Employment and Wages in the United States by the Bay Area Council Economic Institute, commissioned by Engine Advocacy, concluded that for every high-tech job, 4 more are created. In the United States, tech jobs are predicted to grow 22% by 2020. The types of technology positions range from healthcare, administration, and software development to information security, and this job sector is still on the rise. Consider that National Techies Day falls during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So there you go.
Okay.
Okay, October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. If all your devices are locked down and secure, thank a techie. If they're not, find one and get some help getting them secure. So here's the history, Pete, of National Techies Day. In 1999, it was expected that 60% of new jobs would require advanced technology skills that Americans didn't have. Techies.com and CNET Networks launched National Techies Day to encourage students to embrace computer science. Being a computer nerd or geek in the fastest growing world of technology opens doors to career opportunities.
See, Revenge of the Nerds was right.
Yeah. So do you, now Pete, all kidding aside, but you are a techie. So do you agree with that that kind of background and degree would open up a lot of doors for students?
Yeah, because nowadays, look at the video industry that I came up in is convergent to IT. It's more IT now than it is video.
Yes.
You really have to have the IT background to know how to put a studio together, whereas before it was just putting cables together and understanding the wire flow. But now it's just as much creative as it is technical.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, IT,
so I'm trying to tell the students.
IT is information technology.
Thank you.
For those acronyms.
For those English majors that don't understand.
Don't get the whole thing.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, it's really,
yes,
and same thing with public safety. And, public safety can't go anywhere without a computer now.
I think that's interesting, Pete, because I've often told people about what you do. And, when you're interfacing with first responders and dispatch and police and so forth. And, it's kind of like, oh, I thought Pete worked for, in technology. Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah.
In this day and age.
I remember the days when I first started as a dispatcher, the guy said, I don't want those stinking computers in my car. And then when I left dispatching and went into the IT side of the house, they couldn't live without them.
Yeah, yeah.
The radios. I mean, the radios they carry on their hip are more computer than radio.
Really? So they're not. So I think everybody thinks they're just walkie-talkies.
No,
those days are gone.
Nope, because they can be programmed over the air, so they're far more than a walkie-talkie.
Yeah. So, Pete, happy National Techies Day. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, October 3rd is also National Boyfriend Day. Okay.
I don't get why that's relevant, but...
Okay. So, National Boyfriend Day is observed annually on October 3rd. Boyfriends have been overlooked in the past when it comes to holidays. There are special days for mothers and fathers, siblings, cousins, grandparents, girlfriends, and even in-laws. This is a day to show appreciation to boyfriends everywhere for the good things they do. So, how to observe? Well, you want to do something nice for your boyfriend today. Take him fishing or golfing or whatever his favorite activity is. Go out for dinner or to a movie. Whatever you choose to do, let him know you appreciate him. Let the world know about your special guy.
This is what I call a Hallmark holiday.
There you go. And speaking of special guys, mine just walked in the door. So, all right. So, but before we get to Dr. Gorman and his new theme song that I'm trying out.
Okay.
Which, recall that last month I said you needed a theme song. I had one. You listened to it, but you didn't really get the lyrics. I printed out the lyrics for you, Dr.
See, she's super prepared.
So organized.
So you can read along. while it plays. But before we do that, we have to go over famous birthdays because we have some other songs second hour that have to do with our special birthdays. October 3rd is the birthday of the late Eddie Cochran, singer. He was born October 3rd, 1938 in Albert Lea, Minnesota. Cochran began his musical career in 1954 and started a band. Now, how unusual is this? He started a band with singer and guitarist Hank Cochran, same last name, same spelling, not related.
Okay.
And they were known as the Cochran Brothers, but they were actually not related.
Oh, wow.
The pair recorded...
That's a good gimmick.
I know, right? The pair recorded albums and toured the United States as a country rockabilly act. Bill Haley, Little Richard, and Elvis Presley turned Eddie Cochran toward rock and roll. In 1958, two hit songs, Summertime Blues, you remember that one, and Come On Everybody, shot him to stardom. His fame and good looks earned him roles in the movies The Girl Can't Help It in 1956, Untamed Youth in 1957, and Go Johnny Go in 1959. In 1960, riding high on his success in both music and movies, Cochran headed to England to perform on a countrywide tour. On April 17, 1960, Cochran was in a taxi from Bristol to an area airport for his return trip to the United States. The speeding taxi crashed and Cochran was thrown from the car and killed. He was 21 years old and on the way to stardom as a rock and roll singer. So happy birthday to the late Eddie Cochran, and we'll tune in to Summertime Blues later on, second hour. It is also the birthday of singer Chubby Checker. Chubby Checker was born October 3rd, 1941 in Spring Gully, South Carolina. He is 77 years old today. Chubby Checker was not born Chubby. He wasn't christened Chubby Checker.
That's probably his nickname.
It was. He was born Ernest Evans. His family moved from South Carolina to Philadelphia, and as a young boy, Chubby Checker worked various jobs, shining shoes, selling ice, and assisting in a butcher shop. Because of his heavy build, he got the nickname Chubby. With a natural gift for imitation, he enjoyed impersonating the styles of his musical heroes, Fats Domino, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elvis Presley. He performed in churches and on the streets with his group, the Quantrells. He attracted the attention of music executives in Philadelphia, and he signed with Cameo Parkway Records in 1959 and recorded his version of Hank Ballard's The Twist. An appearance on American Bandstand made the song a #1 hit and dance sensation.
At 77, I wonder if he can still twist.
And the rest is history. I bet he can. I bet he can, because we certainly have seniors that did the twist at my birthday party last year, and they were in their 70s. So happy birthday to Chubby Checker. And finally, this one is interesting. It is the birthday of attorney Jeff Ashton. He was born October 3rd, 1957 in St. Petersburg, Florida, and he's 61 years old today. Jeff Ashton studied law at the University of Florida School of Law and became an Orlando prosecutor. And this is really an interesting background on this guy. While serving as assistant state attorney in 1987, Ashton took on a groundbreaking role. He began working as prosecutor on the trial of a Florida serial rapist, and during the trial, he introduced DNA-based evidence. The case resulted in the first conviction using DNA testing, with such evidence being used regularly thereafter in cases throughout the country. Decades later, he joined the prosecution in the sensational 2011 Casey Anthony trial. Anthony, a young woman from Florida, was accused of murdering her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee Anthony, whose remains were found near the Anthony home. The case received a huge amount of media attention. The prosecution took the stance that Anthony was guilty of murder, and the defense countered that Kaylee's death was an accident that was subsequently covered up. On July 5th, 2011, the jury found Casey Anthony not guilty of first-degree murder, aggravated manslaughter, and aggravated child abuse charges. Anthony was found guilty of charges related to providing the police with false information and was placed on parole after receiving a fine and credit for time served. Jeff Ashton, the attorney, one of the attorneys for the prosecutor, was stunned by the decision. He's written a book about his experiences called Imperfect Justice, prosecuting Casey Anthony, and was sworn in as a Florida state attorney in 2013. So happy birthday to Jeff Ashton, who, some groundbreaking stuff over there.
Yeah.
I always think that kind of stuff is really interesting. It's like the first to do something. So there we are. It is 6:14. I am like right on schedule today.
Yes.
I'm super excited. So it is 6:14. 59. There it is, 6:15 on the dot. So we are going to listen to, this is a possible, Dr. Gorman, it's a possible theme song for you. It's the same one we played last month, but now you have the lyrics. It's called Affirmation by Savage Garden. And when we come back, Dr. Gary Gorman.
Should never set upon an argument. I believe we place our happiness in other people's hands. I believe the junk food tastes so good because it's bad for you. I believe your parents did the best job they knew how to do. I believe that beauty magazines promote low self-esteem. I believe I'm loved when I'm completely by myself alone. I believe in karma, what you give is what you get returned. I believe you can appreciate real love till you've been burned. I believe the grass is sexuality. I believe that trust is more important than monogamy. I believe your most attractive features are your heart and soul. I believe that family is worth more than money or gold. I believe the struggle for financial freedom is unfair. I believe the only one to disagree are millionaires. I believe in karma, what you give and what you get returned. I believe you can appreciate real life till you've been burned. I believe the grass is no more greener on the other side. I believe you don't know what you've got until you say goodbye. I believe forgiveness is the key to your unhappiness. I believe that wedded bliss negates the need to be undressed. I believe that God does not endorse TV evangelists. I believe in love surviving death into eternity. I believe in karma, what you give and what you get returned. I believe you can appreciate real love till you've been burned. I believe the grass is no more greener on the other side. I believe you don't know what you've got until you say goodbye. I believe in karma, what you give and what you get returned. I believe you can appreciate real love till you've been burned. I believe the grass is no more greener on the other side. I believe you don't know what you've got until you say goodbye. Until you say goodbye. Oh no, 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 no. No, 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 no.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes and Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Placek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Thursday morning from 6 till 8, it's Patrick Berry, owner of the Westfield News Group,
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
Our resident chiropractic physician, Dr. Gary Gorman. Good morning, Gary.
Yes, good morning.
And Gary
Beautiful
has
wife.
thank you. And Gary has a new, I can't say you're from Riverbend Medical Group anymore. You are from Trinity Health of New New England
The name
Medical
du jour.
Group.
What a mouthful that is.
It is a mouthful.
isn't it?
Trinity Health of New England Medical Group.
That's right.
Wasn't it
So-
the Caritas Healthcare Group for a while?
No.
No.
System-
No,
No.
not Riverbend.
No, I know, but I mean,
Oh.
now what's called Trinity used to be Caritas.
Oh, now it's called
Yeah.
Well,
No.
no, because
Mercy was
Trinity
part
is
of
Trinity is based out of the Midwest, and they bought
Caritas.
Right.
Mercy
They
and
bought
everything
Mercy.
along with. They bought Sisters of Providence, who owned Mercy.
Yep.
Right.
It's the
trickle effect.
It's the whales
yeah.
taking on the sharks.
But now I
Yeah,
think
you know.
everything is pretty much everything in this area
Yes.
now is pretty much under
Yes.
Trinity, because
Yes.
even our nurse through the senior center
Right.
is it used to be through Mercy Home Care,
Right.
But now it's
So
Trinity.
what had happened was, in a
whatever it's
nutshell,
called.
before we get into my subject,
Sure,
is that Riverbend was a large outpatient practice, and when we were bought by Trinity 2 years ago, it was in July of 2016.
Okay.
We not only became part of Sisters of Providence and worked directly with Mercy Hospital, we then assumed all the Mercy practices. So it was, at one point, it was very confusing because who belonged to who.
Yes.
So the powers that be upstairs, the regional administrators, really had decided to become much less confusing, to make all the practices the same name. So
Right,
actually,
because you didn't know Riverbend was part of what, or
right,
was affiliated
exactly.
with,
We were an
or
independent
anybody. Yeah.
We were just an independent group
Until 2
practice
years
until
ago,
2
you were
years ago.
you were
Correct.
independent. So, and the same thing with Mercy. So, I mean,
Right.
they're not obviously changing the name of Mercy
No.
Hospital, but I know like
Nope.
Mercy Home Care is now under Trinity. So it's Trinity, whatever their new name is. You know, it's Trinity something.
Right.
Everybody's got Trinity in there, so
Right.
you all know.
I think Mercy probably will stay Mercy Hospital because,
Oh, I think
like,
so
same,
too.
Like
but the home
if-
care piece of it,
Right, will change.
They already did. It's
Yep.
Trinity, but I don't know. I don't think it's Trinity Home Care, but it's Trinity something.
Yep. And so
okay.
I think it was September 4th. The rollout was that we
Okay.
all became, and
For
we
Riverbend.
have temporary signs on all the front of the buildings and everything.
It's very
really
confusing
amazing.
because of course we had a Riverbend here in Westfield, which is
Right.
now Trinity. Wait, let me get it. I gotta get this right. Trinity Health of New England Medical Group.
Correct.
So Trinity Health of New England
Right.
Medical Group. We have one in Agawam, which is where you are, Gary. We
Yep.
have one in Westfield. There's one in Chicopee and one in Springfield and Wilbraham.
Wilbraham.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so 5 of them.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have other sites too. So think about what it took for our IT department to bring all those other sites on board, bringing them in to our own software packages.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
quite an.
All the
it
MyChart
continues
stuff.
to be MyChart, Epic,
Yes,
which is our
Epic, yep.
our
The medical piece,
Medical piece
yes,
of it,
the medical
right,
piece of
software.
your software,
Yep,
yeah, and
yep,
so forth.
so-
Well, you know, it's National Techies Day, so thank the techies who helped to make that happen here.
very good.
So, Dr. Gary Gorman,
Yes.
what's going on with you for the last month? Because I don't see you, so we don't see each other. We have to catch up on the radio.
The first Wednesday of the morning here.
We do. We just to reintroduce ourselves. So anything
We have a
special
guest
going
coming
on?
in tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. I need to do the sheets on the guest room.
My high school buddy.
So you have you started classes. You know,
Yes.
some
Yep.
of our listeners might not know
Yes.
that you teach a course, just one course now.
Yep.
Thank you, dear
Yes.
God.
Yes.
At
I am
Springfield
grateful
College.
that it is
Yes,
only one
Gary
now.
used to teach 2 in the fall, 1 in the spring, 2 different courses, and I did some guest lecturing for him on that other
Yeah.
one. So I'm happy to have been relieved of that
I was actually
responsibility.
driving around yesterday, and I realized. I think I'm hoping I know when it's time to retire permanently with my own practice, because it was the perfect decision to give up my one night class, and it just evolved. I didn't think in advance to say I'll teach until such and such a year.
Mm-hmm.
After last fall, I just said I think I've had enough of this particular
Yeah.
class. I've
was
done
a
it for
great
19
class. Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think in education, educators, professors, teachers sometimes don't know when it's time to move on.
I agree.
And there's this spiraling down effect because they're not as motivated as they should be or they used to be. Their students become less motivated because they sense that their teachers aren't as motivated as they used to be. They're going
Right.
through the motions. They're doing the same thing. It's the old, do you have 30 years of experience or do you have 1 year of experience for 30 years
30
doing
times.
the same things
Yep.
over and over and
Yep.
over again? So consequently, I was driving home yesterday. I stopped over to East Long Meadow to see Coach Bud, and I said to myself, I said, you know what? I am really grateful that I don't have my night class, because I would be going back tonight and teaching that class.
Right, it would have been. Yeah, it was a Tuesday night class. You know, I agree with you, Gary, and I can tell you, having also taught at Springfield College for 12 years, my aha moment was the day I was standing. I was doing a lecture. And I used to do a lot of case scenarios because I taught one of the courses I taught was on aging. It was called The Needs of Aging, and it was on working, obviously, with the older population. And I told a case scenario, and I looked at the students and I said, have I already told you that story? And they all looked at me and they said, no. But for me, it was, I had said it so many times because I had taught the class for so many years. I mean, I taught every semester. Some semesters I taught 2 sections. So, multiply that. I was there for 12 years. So I taught the class probably, 27 or 28 times. And I would change it up, a bit. But I think that was when I, just as you said, Gary, I thought to myself, if I feel like I'm bored with my own stuff, and they're not. It was new to them, but I thought, you know what? It's time. And I agree with you.
And I agree.
Yeah.
And it was great. And so I'm hoping.
Perfect.
I'm hoping the rest of my career decisions will come as easy as that one.
Just
and
kind
who
of
knows?
evolve.
Because people say, well, what do you think about retirement? I said, what does that mean to me? I don't really know. Yeah. I love what I do. I love the hours that I have at Trinity.
Yes.
Trinity. And I love my teaching. I love my coaching. And I said, so at this stage of the game, until physically I can't do it anymore, or something comes up that is so different than it is right now, whether it's something to do within the organization itself, or when I just said, I decided it is time and I'll do something different.
So what is the course that you're teaching? You teach one course now.
Called Human Disease and Chronic Illness.
And what is that course?
Okay, so in essence, what it is basically a survey course on anatomy, physiology, and pathology. So I teach the students basic anatomy. My philosophy is that students, we all need to understand what normal is like before we understand what pathology is or abnormal is like. Right. So we start at the cellular level. I teach basic cell physiology at a very watered down level of what a cell is like, because in essence we are made up of cells. Pathology, cancer pathology, cardiovascular disease starts at the cellular level. We don't automatically have a heart attack. Right. It starts with one little change in one little gene in a DNA, or multiple genes on DNA, one little area in one cell that starts to multiply, which ultimately leads to the pathology, the tumors, the cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we start at the cellular level, working our way up to the systems level. I'm just finishing up cardiovascular system right now, which is really pretty cool.
That's a biggie.
Yeah. I shared my war story with them. And
for those listeners who don't know, you underwent open heart surgery a couple of years ago.
Yep. And lived to tell about it.
Yes.
And I am flourishing as a result of it. But it's teasing because we worked into the cellular level up to this chapter. We're doing cardiovascular, and then I have a couple more chapters of going back to doing blood neoplasms and things about the vascular disease. Then we start into systems, respiratory system, renal system, cardiovascular.
So maybe we can talk about some of those things over the next few months because they are interesting. And I think that, as you said, Gary, it's really important and especially, I work with older adults, and obviously they have a lot of issues, cardiovascular issues and respiratory issues. But as you said, it's hard to understand what those issues are if you don't understand how it's supposed to be working. Right. And then maybe, can we fix it? Can we treat it? Can we at least stop it from, the progression? And of course, it all depends on what the diagnosis is. But those are all things that we can talk about over the next couple of months.
And there's some interesting thing too, kind of a segue into my presentation. Sure. I mean, we're going to be talking about sitting is the new smoking.
I was just going to ask you to just do a little intro right before our break, and then
really,
when we come back, we'll talk about it.
It's really very interesting.
So the topic is sitting is the new smoking.
The new buzz. It's actually a buzz phrase in healthcare today. And I was thinking last night, reflecting on when I first heard this term, because it was new to me.
Yes.
And I feel I heard it a couple years ago, so I went online and just to try to see an article that was done. And I found an article back in 2014.
Okay, so 4 years ago.
Or 2015.
It's still relatively new.
Either way. Oh, yes, it's only a couple years ago. And I heard this term is called smoking is the new sitting. I said,
no, sitting is the new smoking.
Smoking is the new sitting. Sitting is the new smoking. I went, huh. What's that all about?
What does that mean?
So what is going on today? If you really think about smoking, back when smoking first became in vogue, nobody thought of the health risks of smoking.
Sure.
It became a popular fashion statement, so
back
to
in
speak.
the 20s and 30s
Right.
and 40s.
It was a cool
you know.
thing to do. You looked glamorous when you had a cigarette and you did all this kind of stuff. Well, and for many, many years, people didn't put a healthful risk factor to smoking.
Sure.
It was just, it was something that people did. Think about sitting. In society, oftentimes sitting is equated to jobs that are status related.
Sure.
A white collar.
Yep.
Think about your electricians, your plumbers, your HVAC guys, your construction guys.
Sure.
They fall under what we would consider in society today blue collar jobs.
Yep.
Awesome jobs, but blue collar jobs.
But not the glamorous ones.
But I sit at a desk in the corner office and I work on a computer
Look
all
over
day.
Manhattan
Or I sit
skyline.
over here and I sit here and I sit here and I sit here and I do this all the time, blah, blah, blah. So sitting in some point in society is a status of I've evolved and I am a white collar job.
Yeah.
I have achieved.
I'm successful professionally.
So we are starting. Chiropractors have been known for many, many years. Movement is life. We are starting to understand as a healthcare or a system in general that sitting is not what it's cracked up to be.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there because I love that. Sitting is not what it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
It is 6:32. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. When we come back, we're going to pick up on that one. This song is for Pete. This is in honor of National Techies Day. It's called 1 Week by Bare Naked Ladies.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying get back together, come back and see me. 3 days since the living room. I realized it's all my fault, but couldn't tell you. Yesterday you'd forgiven me, but it'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
Hold it now, I want to hoodwink. Does it make you stop think? You'll think you're looking at Aquaman. I summon fish to the dish, although I like the chalet Swiss, I like the sushi, cause it's never touch a frying pan. Hot like wasabi when I bust rhymes. Speak like Leanne rhymes, because I'm all about value. Virgin campers got the mad hits. You try to match wits, you try to hold me but I bust through. Gonna make a break and take a fake out like a sink and it can shake out like vanilla. It's the finest of the flavors. Gonna see the show cause then you'll know the vertigo is gonna go cause it's so dangerous. You'll have to sign a waiver. Can't I help it if I think you're funny when you're mad? Trying hard not to smile though I feel bad. I'm the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral. Can't understand what I mean, well you soon will. I have a tendency to wear my mind on my sleeve. I have a history of taking off my shirt.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Threw your arms in the air and said you're crazy. 5 days since you tackled me. I still got the red burns on both my knees. It's been 3 days since the afternoon. You realize it's not my fault, but only too soon. Yesterday you'd forgiven me, and now I'll sit back and wait till you say you're sorry.
China, the Chinese chicken. You have a drumstick and your brain stops sticking. Watching X-Files with no lights on, with all our maisons. I hope the smoking man's in this one like Harrison Ford. I'm getting frantic, like Sting, I'm tantric. Like Snickers guaranteed to satisfy. Like Kurosawa, I make mad films. Okay, I don't make films, but if I did, they'd have a samurai. Gonna get a set of better clubs, gonna find the kind with tiny dumpsters so my irons are always flying off the backswing. Gonna get into my Sailor Moon cause that cartoonist got the boom anime babes that make me think the wrong thing.
How can I help it if I think you're funny when you're mad? Trying hard not to smile, though I feel bad. I'm the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral. Can't understand what I mean, you soon will. I have a tendency to wear my mind on my sleeve. I have a history of losing my shirt. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Dropped your hands to the sides and said I'm sorry. 5 days since I laughed at you and said you just did just what I thought you were gonna do. 3 days since the living room. We realized we're both to blame, but what could we do? Yesterday, you just smiled at me, cause it'll still be 2 days till we say we're sorry. It'll still be 2 days till we say we're sorry. It'll still be 2 days till we say we're sorry. We're trying to be a home of the Robbie.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
He rules the roost on Thursday from 6 till 10. It's Patrick Berry.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and just following up on what we just heard, Patrick Berry's guest tomorrow on his Westfield News radio show from 6 to 8 will be Mark Crissati, city engineer. He generally has Mark on about 3 times a year to give an update on what's happening around the city, and again, there are things happening all over the city, so Mark will give you an update on what's been accomplished during the nice weather before we head into the winter, and what's on the docket for
what
the
can
spring.
They squeeze in before the
exactly
before the snow
they're trying
falls.
to they have to get it all in before Thanksgiving, so Mark will be on Patrick's show tomorrow from 6 to 8. My guest this morning is our resident chiropractor. We like to refer to him as our resident chiropractor, Dr. Gary Gorman with Trinity Health of New England Medical Group. That's a mouthful, and they have replaced Riverbend. They've just replaced the title.
Right.
Well, because I don't want my seniors panicking.
Oh,
it's
no.
like, my doctor's not there.
When
it's
you
all
walk
the
into
same.
our building,
the only
nothing
thing
has
that's different
changed
is the
except the sign
Yeah,
outside.
the sign is
Right.
different. So for those of you who are used to Riverbend and Agawam or Chicopee or Westfield, those are the three generally that the Westfield folks go to. The signs will now read Trinity Health of New England Medical Group, but your doctors and your providers are still there. So the topic this morning, Gare, is sitting is the new smoking.
Right.
You were just the last line you left us with before the break was that sitting is not all it's cracked up to be.
And I really didn't think to say that as a chiropractic
well, there
pun.
you go. It's kind of a chiropractic thing. I kind of like it. You could use that as your little motto there. So talk about that. What's wrong with sitting? I mean, we do it all the time.
I
What's
think
the deal?
With time, we'll probably start with the two biggest concerns for prolonged sitting. One is the musculoskeletal system, joints, muscles, bones, etc. And the second is the cardiovascular system.
Okay.
So let's start off with the musculoskeletal system. There is a science called ergonomics.
Okay.
And ergonomics came into vogue probably in the 70s because historically what would occur is that Joe Smith, 6'9" basketball player from college, gets a job in an insurance company.
Okay.
And he has to sit in the same desk as Missy Smith, 4'11".
Yep.
In the same desk.
Same setup, same desk, same chair.
That makes no sense to anybody because how would that work well?
Exactly.
That's not going to end up very well. So ergonomics was as a science that instead of having the employee adapt themselves to the work environment, they are changing and adapting the work environment for the specific needs of the employee.
Okay.
And that
sounds
really
like a good
is
idea.
a lot of considered on height. So let's talk just a little bit about sitting. So in the perfect world, there are certain characteristics or criterias that I would talk to my patients about to go back and assess their job site.
Okay.
Chair height, desk height, monitor height of the computer, keyboard height, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we go through these criteria. I said, go back to your office and then tell me how good or bad it actually is, and then we need to make some changes.
Well, you know what I think is interesting about that, Gare, and I wonder how many of your patients come back. And see, I think part of the issue is that employees adapt to wherever their work environment is. So I wonder, is that hard for your employees to come back and say, well, this is too high or this is too low or this isn't right? Because I think especially if they've worked there for 5 years, they've already adapted to what they have, even if it's awful for them. Are they able to identify that, or do they come back and say?
They are, because I'll sit them in my I'm sitting in my office in the chair and say, okay, sit right here.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll say to them, pretend you're sitting at your computer and show me where your mouse is.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to describe this for the viewers who are listening, the listeners, not the viewers.
Right, the listeners. Well,
so
we're on channel 15
consequently,
too, so you can use your
they'll
arms.
come into me and they'll say, "Gee, my shoulder and the muscle between my neck and shoulder are really bothering me."
Okay.
And I say, "Oh, really? Is it?" I said, "So sit. I'm just sitting here right now. Show me where your mouse is." And they'll go like this.
Okay.
I said, "Okay,
so
that's
it's
the
way
problem
up
right
here.
from
So
the begin with."
it's so to those
So
who are
I s-
listening and not viewing,
Yeah,
your
it's
arm
like you're
is
reaching
up and
up
out.
and out.
Yeah.
And even if it's way away from your desk, but it's down a little bit lower, I said, okay, what you have to do is you have to make your mouse so that you could rest your forearm or your wrist on the desk.
On the edge of the table, yeah.
And your mouse has to be right here. And I show them that. So go back to your office and at least make that change somehow. You have to move something around.
Okay.
I remember when I first started getting into the ergonomic concept in my practice, there was an analogy of a pilot in the cockpit of an airplane.
Okay.
And what happens is, if you look in a cockpit, there's instruments all over the place, but the most important things for that pilot are right here. They're like, if you're looking straight ahead, it's from like 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock in front of you. They have all the most important things right in here. The button back here means nothing to him because in a crisis, or 95% of the time, he's looking at the stuff going on right in front of him. So what's killing me now in healthcare today, or in anything, is it not only is bad enough for somebody to have one monitor. Now we have people that have 2 or 3 monitors that they're trying to manage during the course of the day. Clearly, that employee's best health interest is not in the mind of their employer when it comes to what you're truly asking them to do 8, 10, 12 hours a day.
Right. If they have multiple monitors,
I'm getting excited.
I can tell.
Well,
that's okay. But I mean,
it's a problem.
Well, you should. I mean, you should. But you should get excited about it because this is your profession, and I mean, your profession is healthcare.
Yeah.
So you're trying to be proactive to prevent those problems.
Right.
And yes, and people who have multiple monitors, computer monitors, they're constantly. You can't look straight ahead.
Right.
You've got to be. You've got to be kind of turning side to side.
But again, even with dispatch, it's set up that the most important monitors, your status display and your call entry are right in front of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the stuff that's not quite as important, we laid off to the side.
Right. And it should always
As
be
it
that
should
way.
be.
Yeah. It should be that way. What's the matter?
You unplugged.
As it should be. I'll keep talking.
Yeah.
So, in essence, let's back up one notch and let's just talk about chair height, for example.
Okay.
So when you're sitting in your chair, you really need to be sitting so that your feet are on the floor and your knees and hips so your knees are about level with your hips.
Okay.
At roughly 90 degrees. So if you're sitting, you're sitting with your feet on the floor, your knees and hips are roughly at 90 degrees. All right. So that's first and foremost. When you're sitting at your desk, now I'm just talking work site.
Yes.
If you think about some of the horrendous sitting positions that we engage in at home.
Oh my gosh. I know.
So talking about sitting is the new smoking, it's only going to get better.
Yes.
How about reclining?
Right.
Like at
That's
home?
the worst thing for you because and so don't tell Lazy Boy that, but it's the
don't
worst
tell me
thing
that
works
because I
for you.
try reclining.
Oh yeah, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So
There we go. He's on a roll. Watch out, Pete.
I'm on a roll. To be continued next month. So here's what happens. So you sit there. So what happens is you want to have your keyboard height so that your elbows are between 75 and 90 degrees.
Okay.
Okay. And so then you want your monitor to be positioned so that your
Head's
if
level.
you put an X through the center of that monitor, that's where your nose would be.
Yep.
Straight forward.
Okay. So straight on.
So that's the perfect case scenario. So Mary Jones goes in at 8 a.m. to her insurance company and she sits at her desk and with all good intentions of having good posture, I can assure you by 1 o'clock that afternoon, after sitting at that computer all day long, her feet are on the desk. She's throwing papers into the basket. She's doing all this stuff.
I see people all day in classrooms sitting like this, like slouched back, and
we fatigue. First of all, just as a human, we are not designed to sit.
Aha.
We are designed to be up and moving and active.
Yep.
And that's how we heal.
Yep.
And inactivity is breeding disease in the long term.
Okay.
So in the musculoskeletal system, let's go back to some of the basics. We are made up of a bunch of bones which have joints in between that are supposed to move, and muscles that get long and short. That's what their design is. So when you sit all day long, you have certain muscles that are in a short state all day long, and muscles and joints are in certain angles all day long. So I'm not telling everybody who has a sedentary lifestyle or sedentary job to quit their job, but build in activity as part of your job. You could stretch without even
volunteer to walk
leaving.
to the mailroom.
Yeah. Well, you know what's going on in today, which is really awesome. I mean, it's a head in the right direction, is Veridesks, or desks that you have the opportunity to raise, sitting and standing desks. And I'm writing more and more letters for my patients to go back to their employer to get them Veridesks. I think what is actually even awesome is treadmill desks.
Okay, so we're gonna. I know. If you've never heard of that, I hear
Sounds
Abby going, "What?" It is It is absolutely exciting and fascinating. I actually went on and tried one of these. So we'll talk about that. I was thinking about that, Gareth. So let's take our break. We'll talk about this is in honor of National Boyfriend Day. This is my boyfriend's back, so we're gonna take just a short break. There we go.
I
Watch
wanted
out,
to be
my
back from
boyfriend's
National
back.
Girlfriend Day.
And bothered me every night. When I wouldn't go out with you, you said things that weren't very nice. My boyfriend's back and you're gonna be in trouble. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. When you see him coming, better cut out on the double. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. You've been spreading lies that I was untrue. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. So look out now, 'cause he's coming after you. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. Hey, he knows what you've been trying, and he knows that you've been lying. He's been gone for such a long time. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. Now he's back and things will be fine. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. You're gonna be sorry you were ever born. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. 'Cause he's kinda big and he's awful strong. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. Hey, he knows I wasn't cheating. Now you're gonna get a beating. What made you think he'd believe all your lies? Wahoo, wahoo. You're a big man now, but he'll cut you down to size. Wahoo, wait and see. My boyfriend's back, he's gonna save my reputation. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. If I were you, I'd take a permanent vacation. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. Hey la, my boyfriend's back now. Hey la, my boyfriend's back. I can see you coming to your door. My boyfriend's back now. My boyfriend's back. I know it's coming after you because
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50 exactly. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in studio right now with our resident chiropractic physician, Dr. Gary Gorman, with Trinity Health of New England Medical Group. Welcome again, Gary.
Thank you.
So it is truly Wake Up Wednesday because Gary is really jacked. I mean, we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to his heart. And I think we're actually talking, the topic is Sitting is the New Smoking Part 1.
Right.
Because we're going to do Part 2 next month. And I think Part 1, Dr. Gorman is focusing on the musculoskeletal.
Yes.
We'll focus on the cardiac piece of this next month because this is such an interesting topic. And you've been talking, Dr. Gorman, about the perils of sitting too much.
Right.
The fact that so many of us have jobs where we are sitting all day long, oftentimes in front of a computer. That's becoming more and more common no matter what your job is, whether you're working for an insurance company, a healthcare agency, a business, or anything else. I mean, for the most part, people are tied to their computers. You've talked a little bit about chair height and the fact that people need to be sitting with their feet on the floor, you know, kind of straight up.
Right. And not only that, though, you need to sit with your back against the back of the chair.
That's
because we are made, our bodies, the spine is made with curves, and curves are like helping to shock absorb us against all the assaults of the day, so to speak.
Okay.
And so in the low back, there's a curve going forward towards your stomach.
Yeah.
And in the mid back, there's a curve going towards your back. And in the neck, there's a curve going towards your nose.
It's kind of an S.
It's an S-shaped curve.
An S shape.
So consequently, if you evaluate yourself and you're sitting, you want to try to maintain that forward curve in the low back, and you want to maintain that forward curve in the neck. That is what I had described earlier as the ideal posture to sit with.
Okay.
But if you there's a word I'm groping for.
Okay.
If you diverge away from that, you're going to start changing those curves, either straightening them or reversing them, and our bodies have to adapt to that. An improper
chair sitting position will actually over time. This is not going to happen overnight, but if you're sitting in the same lousy chair with the same lousy posture for months and into years,
40 hours a week,
you're going to change your body structure.
Sounds like exactly what they do with orthodontics.
Well,
it's a slow process.
Right.
Exactly.
In this case, it's a slow process. Going in the wrong direction.
Right, no, I'm saying it's the same thing. It's curving bone. It takes time.
Right.
You know, Gary, this is really interesting, and I don't know if you heard this piece. I don't think so. I think it was on after you left for work, but about 2 weeks ago, National Public Radio did a story on a type of chair that was designed, I think, like in the 1950s. Very popular. They said, you know, it was put in so many waiting rooms and so forth. Anyway, come to find out, it's probably the worst chair ever for posture because there's no lumbar support to it. So people, in order to sit in the chair and fit in the chair, you have to slouch.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because they said this chair was, you know, you would see it in all of the Better Home and Garden magazines. And so there was a woman who came on and she was talking about, you know, well, short of throwing all of these out, now they're kind of collector's items and vintage and so forth. She talked about how you needed to, you know, put pillows in, to do all this stuff to get you to exactly what you're saying, into that position where your feet are on the floor, you have the support in your low back where that natural curve is, and then in your upper back the other way.
Yes.
So
we want to maintain. So sitting in general, we want to maintain those curves.
Okay.
First and foremost. Because if you don't, you're putting your body in a situation where it goes back to the reverse ergonomics. You're adapting to your work environment. Your joints and your muscles and your ligaments are all adapting to that. So clinically, some of the conditions that I see, huge issue with headaches.
Yes.
Huge issue with headaches when you have a person that is in a poor ergonomic environment for a long period of time or chooses to get into poor activities during the course of their day. And the biggest one I'm going on every single day, and I go into my office, are cell phone use.
Yep.
For you listening today, just go out in a public environment and be a people watcher for 15 minutes.
Love to do that.
You're going to find probably 75% of the people that are sitting there slouched with their phone on their lap with their head down checking social media.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. I see it every day.
So what you're seeing from a chiropractic standpoint is neck down, head
down,
looking down,
reversing the
Yep.
normal curve of the
neck.
cervical spine.
Yeah.
In essence, you start to create tension headaches.
Yeah.
I was presenting at a conference 2 years ago for the rehab conference, and there was a massage therapist there who was talking about massage therapy, et cetera. And she came up with a statistic that was very fascinating to me because I hadn't quite heard that. The human head weighs roughly between 11 and 13 pounds.
Okay.
So physicists must have done some research to figure out how much your head weighs when you translate it by looking forward. So your head weighs 11 to 13 pounds when it's sitting right on top of your neck.
And you're looking straight ahead.
When you're looking straight ahead.
It's always sitting on top of your neck.
Right, it's always sitting on top of your neck. I'm trying to explain this in
I
a
hope
way.
it doesn't
I know
go
what
anywhere.
I mean, but I'm trying to explain this. So
what happens is the weight of
it as the bowling ball of your head starts to be migrating forward.
Your center of gravity changes.
The center of gravity changes, and it's as though your head becomes like 60 to 65 pounds.
It just feels heavier.
For the muscles and the skeleton to hold up the same way it would be if you're.
And is that would that primarily be the muscles in your neck?
The muscles of the base of your skull.
So looking
and your
straight
neck and
ahead
your upper
is different
back.
than looking down in terms of the muscles in your neck.
Yes.
So all that cell phone use when you're looking down and you're texting and you're checking social media or whatever you're checking your text messages,
you're reversing the curve.
You're reversing the curve and putting more strain
and so,
on your neck.
I get a kick out of it because I'll have a patient come into me for headaches, and I come into the treatment room and she's sitting with her chin on her chest looking at social media on her cell phone.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I don't even say a word. I go like this. I go down and I hold their hands, and I bring their hands up like this, and I said, I'm not taking your cell phone away from you, but I encourage you to start looking at your phone like this.
Yep.
Hold it up in front of you.
Yep.
You could
just hold it up so that
kids today can do this. They could scroll with their thumb. They can't text with their thumb. No, they can, I guess. They can.
I can.
They're
I'm a
so
one-figured
good at
wonder.
all this stuff.
Yes.
But anyway, the point being is that even with the knowledge of how proper sitting is, in time, in the course of a single day, and I'll kind of leave you with a couple thoughts because we have a lot to pick up on next month.
Yes, not the least of which is recliners, because I do want to get back to that. We'll get back to that next month. We're going to write that down. We're going to get back to that next month.
Yeah. Okay. So I encourage you to build in breaks to get up. You could even stand at your own desk and be productive. Just stand. You could be
make that phone call.
When you're talking on the phone,
yeah.
you could stand.
Yep.
Don't slouch back and kick your feet up on the desk.
Yep.
And throw little basketballs of paper into the basket, you know.
Go get up and pick it up, yeah.
You could even stand, as you're sitting at your desk, you could just go through range of motion with your neck, side to side, looking up, looking down.
Sure.
Bring your arms over top of your head. Do some just simple little stretching and sitting there, but you really want to stand up and break the cycle periodically.
Yep.
And that in and of itself is a beginning. There are some things today, which I alluded to before the break, about what's called a Veridesk. A Veridesk is a desktop that sits on top of your permanent desk, and you can elevate the desk so you could work standing.
The entire surface.
The entire surface.
Right,
everything raises.
Everything that's on it. So your phone.
Right, yeah, no, I know what it
everything.
is. I'm just telling the people. Yeah.
Yes,
the entire
good
surface.
point, Pete. Everything raises. Now, some fancy ones, you press it, it's electric. So some press and it just raises.
Yes.
It's
right.
That's right.
Well, and very interesting. We had talked to Abby before about this treadmill desk. So we have my brother and sister-in-law they live up in Maine, and they have a neighbor and who has a treadmill desk. So I was fascinated with this and could not picture this in my head. And I'm very much of a I'm very much of a I need to see a picture. I need to see it in action. So Bob and Vanessa invited us over.
Yeah. So the easiest way to describe it, you have a regular treadmill.
Yeah. Picture a treadmill.
A regular treadmill, and where all the monitor equipment is in the front of the treadmill, your speed and your elevation.
Okay.
That is there, but right on top of that, there's a flat desk top that goes over top of that. and it's probably could be 12 inches wide, so you could put a laptop on top of it.
Yep.
And you have and so you could sit your laptop right on top of this shelf that sits on top of the control panel of your desktop.
Now, the other thing to remember is when you're actually working at the desk and on the treadmill,
you're walking at about half mile an hour.
You're
1
not.
mile an
It's
hour.
not like you're sprinting. You're not running while you're trying to do this.
Although,
Just think about just a slow walk, but your legs are moving, your body's moving, and you're doing whatever you can read. You can you can text, be on your computer, do whatever. So all interesting. All right, it is 7:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. Dr. Gorman, I want to thank you for Sitting is the New Smoking Part 1.
Yes.
So we covered mostly the musculoskeletal, but we do have to get back to recliners. We got to write that down because I don't want to forget that.
Pete will not remind me because he's going to be waiting with bated breath for the next month.
And then we're going to talk about how this also affects cardiovascular
and other systems.
And other systems as well.
There's some preliminary early research based on statistics. I was reading a little bit about that. So they'll take 100,000 people, and they found that for those people that sat for more than X number of hours per day, week, month, had this incidence of heart attacks or this incidence of cancers. Interesting. They're trying to make some connection between what we wouldn't make the connection between sedate lifestyle and certain cancers.
Yeah, which is interesting. We think cardiovascular. We don't think cancers or other
gastrointestinal or intestinal issues.
All right, so topics for the coming months. Dr. Gorman, thanks so much. With Trinity Health of New England Medical Group. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got lots of announcements to do, and then we have some guests from Bay State Noble Hospital coming.
Community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Wednesday mornings start off right from 6 to 8 a.m. with Tina Gorman and Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. It is Wednesday, October 3rd. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. We're taking a little breath here, a little breather. I'm in studio right now with producer Pete Coles, chairman of the board. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
Lots going on this morning.
Abby the intern had to get her caffeination.
Yes, Abby the intern is out getting some coffee. All right, so we're going to do some announcements regarding the senior center. So for those of you who don't know, the October edition of the Voice of Experience newsletter has hit the streets. It hit the streets on Saturday as an insert into the Westfield News, as it does the last Saturday of every month for the following month. So we have so much stuff going on. It's sort of unbelievable. So I'm going to roll through some of these, just hit some of the highlights.
Something about Mayor Dan telling you that. But anyways.
There you go. Okay, so first of all, we are getting people to join our Run Stanley team. You know, we had Vanessa, Diana, and Hillary McEwen on last week talking about Run Stanley. This year we have added the Senior Stroll. So we're looking for members to join our Senior Stroll team. The run walk will be Sunday, October 14th, and the senior stroll will begin at 11:15 a.m. It's a 1-mile flat route on the park's paved surfaces. The registration fee is $15 for seniors. You can either register paper and pencil with Mary Lou Najalski, my program director, or myself this week or next week, or you can register online if you go to Stanley Park and under events, look under Run Stanley. They are still in the process of ordering T-shirts, so it's not too late if you register. And they'll have extra T-shirts. Yeah, they'll have extra T-shirts, but you want to make sure you get one in your size. So, and we want to support Stanley Park. So help us out with our senior stroll. We also, tickets went on sale yesterday for our senior safety luncheon, which is going to be held on Wednesday, October 17th. At 11 a.m. Our presenter is Milagros Johnson. Millie Johnson was actually a guest on this show last year. She works for the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs in Springfield, which is a regional office supported by the state attorney general. She's going to be talking about avoiding identity theft, scams, and fraud. And the reason that we're doing this senior safety luncheon is Millie reached out to me because she said she is getting so many phone calls over the last 6 months from older adults living in Westfield saying they've been scammed, they've been the victim of fraud or identity theft. What do they need to do? They're desperate. They're upset, obviously. So Millie said, let's be a little proactive and let me get out there and do some, we'll do some damage control, but also talk to people about how they can be proactive in protecting themselves. So the tickets are on sale. They are $3. It's just our regular lunch ticket price, but we are selling all tickets in advance. So you won't be able to come on October 17th and, get in there. So go ahead and get your ticket in advance. Again, $3 on sale at the Senior Center. Next week, October 10th, this is an important day. Mark your calendar. 1:30 in the afternoon, we have Michelle Alex coming out to the Senior Center to do a presentation on the driver's license and identification confusion. We now have the real IDs, the standard licenses. When you go to renew your driver's license, how do you do it? What do you need? There's a lot of confusion because there are lots of new rules about this. So Michelle works for the Registry of Motor Vehicles under the Department of Transportation. She will be at the Senior Center at 1:30. Originally, she was going to do 2 presentations, the Senior Center at 1:30 and the Athenaeum at 4 o'clock. She had to cancel the Athenaeum. So you got to get to the Senior Center at 1:30. She will have handouts. She will answer all of your questions and have lots of information about that. Also, I feel like October is Information Month at the Senior Center.
I guess so.
Tuesday, October 23rd, we will have Michelle Urban, Chief Nursing and Administrative Officer from Bay State Noble Hospital, joining us for lunch. Michelle is going to do a brief presentation on the very confusing ballot question number 1. How many patients should one nurse care for? That's basically what that ballot question is all about. Again, a lot of confusion, a lot of people saying to me, I'm hearing vote no, I'm hearing vote yes. What are the ramifications on taking
There's
either a yes or a no?
There's a lot of money into this one.
I'll tell you what, this one is contested, but I think there's so much confusion. Even Gary was asking me last night, well, how are you going to vote? He goes, he said, I'm hearing both sides of it. And the problem is you're seeing, a 60-second commercial snap.
Right.
And so you're really not getting the full story. So we're going to have Michelle in. She's going to talk about it. Obviously, the hospitals have, sort of their side of it. If somebody else comes forward to me and says, well, I want to present the other side of it, I'm happy to have them, invite them to the Senior Center. We will absolutely do that. But anyway, that will be on October 23rd. This Thursday, tomorrow. We have Dine and Dash. That is the first Thursday concert series over at the Athenaeum. The duo playing is called Ukulele Scramble. So that's a free concert. It's the first Thursday concert series at the Athenaeum. The concerts begin at 1 o'clock. If you would like, they changed the time. They used to begin at 12, but they changed it to 1 so that if you want to have lunch at the Senior Center at noon, we'll get you fed and we'll get you out the door by 1:45 or 12:45 at the very latest, which will give you time to get over to the Athenaeum. Actually, you'll probably be out the door by 12:30. That'll give you lots of time to get over to the Athenaeum for that 1 o'clock concert. This Ukulele Scramble, by the way, is supposed to be fabulous. So that is tomorrow, October 4th, for the first one. We also have, speaking of entertainment, we have the Westfield Theater is busy rehearsing a play called The Prohibition of Harriet Jones. They've been rehearsing. We have Carol Palmer is in this show. Dan Reardon, who used to be the director of health. He used to be the Joe Rouse way back when. Is in the show. All these people are retired now, so they have all this time to do shows and plays and have fun. Barbara Coleman, Irene Lansing, and of course they had to have a part for Yoshi. Irene is our senior who has a guide dog. Irene is legally blind, and her guide dog Yoshi accompanies her everywhere. And Irene wanted to do the play, so director Steve Henderson wrote in a part for the guide dog. So we got it, and Irene is working on a costume for him.
That's funny.
So anyway, the show dates are Friday, October 19th at 6 p.m. and Sunday, October 21st at 2 p.m. The tickets are free of charge, but you do have to have a ticket, and the ticket distribution begins this morning at 9 o'clock. Mary Lou will be distributing tickets at the Senior Center at the greeter's desk. I believe that it's a limit of 4 tickets per person. Again, there's no charge for those, but in order to get into the show, just so we know how many chairs we're setting up, you do need a ticket for either the Friday or the Sunday matinee. If you have been to the Senior Center this week, and if you have gotten your copy of the October Voice of Experience newsletter, you know that we have lots of staff changes going on at the Senior
you're shuffling
Center.
the deck over there.
We are shuffling the deck. We have old people in old positions. We have old people in new positions. We have new people in old positions, and soon we will have new people in new positions. So we have created some positions. As Pete said, we've shuffled the deck around. We've changed up some things. So as soon as you walk in the door, you're going to notice a change because our new morning greeter is Sandra Fisher, who has been our kitchen assistant since we moved into the Senior Center and ran the food program at the old Senior Center for many years. Sandra is now the face that greets you and welcomes you when you come in. Tina St. John, who used to do that, is now working upstairs with Fran Aguda, our companion program coordinator. We have a new face in the kitchen, George, whose last name I won't even begin to try to pronounce. It's Greek. And I've been practicing it, but I'm going to practice it some more. No, but when you say it, you have to flip your arm when you say it. It's Vasilis or something like that. But I'm working on it. I'll let you know what George's last name is next week. I'll perfect it. And in the meantime, next week we have our new building full-time building maintenance craftsman starting, Alex Hibbert. So anyway, lots of changes. So we're excited about that. And I'm going to do just about a minute's worth of other announcements just coming up around the city of Westfield. I just want to remind folks that on Sunday, October 7th from 11 to 3 p.m. at the Shortstop Bar and Grill, which is 99 Springfield Road in Westfield, right near the Walmart, Homeward Vets is doing a home furnishings drive. So they are looking for, these are for veterans who they're setting up with housing, and they're looking for household items like small kitchen appliances, toasters, toaster ovens, mixers, blenders, microwaves, lamps, sheets, towels, anything that you would think, you're going to, your kid is going to go get an apartment for the first time. What does he or she need? It's the same kind of thing. What do you need to start up an apartment? Small things. We're not, they take large things, but I think that has to go directly to the warehouse. So they will be at the Shortstop Bar and Grill on this Sunday. So I'm doing massive closet cleaning because I have all kinds of things to donate. So from 11 to 3. Wednesday, October 17th at 7:30 p.m., we have the Greater Westfield Community Band, a haunting evening of music at the Westfield Intermediate School. This is always a free event. It is handicap accessible. This school is located, it's the old North Middle School, which is now the Westfield Intermediate School.
Correct.
We're still learning the names, located right behind Southampton Road School. So that is on Wednesday, October 17th. We'll do one more for the 350 committee. October 13th, which of course is our Pumpkin Fest Day. That's Saturday coming up in a week and a half. But they are doing the big Agawam Paranormal Reveal. So they'll be talking about their investigations of Westfield landmarks. The matinee program is 1 o'clock. And this is at the Women's Club, correct, Pete? Yes, the Westfield Women's Club, 28 Court Street. So the matinee program is 1 o'clock. That's $10 a person per ticket. The dinner and program is 6 o'clock. That's $35 per person. And the program only is 8 o'clock. And again, that's $10 per person. So I have no idea where you get these tickets, though. Do you have to? I assume you have to get them in advance. Oh, to purchase tickets, go to the website. It's Westfield350.org, and they'll tell you all about it. Okay, I feel like Chris Berman, Pete. I just blew through all those announcements. It is 7:17. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. When we come back, we have a whole crew from Bay State Noble Hospital. We're going to be talking about hernias and the upcoming hernia clinic. We will be back.
Come on, baby, let's do the twist. Come on, baby, let's do the twist. Take me by my little hand and go like this. Yeah, twist, baby, twist. Ooh, yeah, just like this. Come on, little miss, and do the twist. My daddy is sleeping, and mama ain't around. Yeah, daddy's just sleeping, and mama ain't around. We're gonna twist it, till we tear the house down. Come on and twist, yeah, baby, twist. Ooh, yeah, just like this. Come on, little miss, and do the twist. You should see my little sister. You should see my little sister. She really knows how to rock. She knows how to twist. Come on and twist. Yeah, baby, twist. Ooh, yeah, just like this. Come on, little miss, and do the twist. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, twist so
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. It is Wednesday, October 3rd. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. And the studio is as full as it's ever been, Pete.
Yes, it's a little busy in here right now.
Yeah, so the voice behind the microphone is producer Pete Coles, the chairman of the board over there that keeps everything running. We have student Abby Taylor in the background, and we have now been joined by three folks from Bay State Medical Center, Bay State Noble Hospital. We've got all kinds of people with all kinds of titles here, so let me see if I have all the names right. So we have Dr. Mazen Al-Mansour. Did I say that?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I'm on a roll. Assistant Professor of Surgery, UMass Medical School, Bay State Medical Center. We have Chris Peterson, Practice Manager with Bay State. I combine this, Chris. So General Colorectal and Bariatric Surgery.
That is correct.
Okay. And Dr. Jacqueline Wu. But I didn't get what you do, Dr. Wu.
I'm a general surgeon, just like Dr. Al-Mansour.
Perfect.
I'm also an assistant professor at UMass Bay State.
All right. And Dr. Wu, since you're up first, let's talk a little bit about your background. So, just so that the listeners know who they're listening to. So, where did you go to med school? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to med school? How did you end up at Bay State Medical Center? How long have you been there? That kind of thing.
Sure. I actually grew up in Massachusetts.
Oh, good. Yay. Where?
In Framingham.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I, despite trying to leave Massachusetts to experience the world, I actually stayed in Massachusetts for pretty much everything. So I went to undergraduate at MIT.
Okay.
Actually 10 minutes away from where my father worked. And then I went to UMass Worcester for medical school.
Okay.
And then I stayed there for my residency training.
Alrighty.
And then after that, I went back to Boston to Brigham and Women's Hospital to do my fellowship training in advanced minimally invasive surgery.
Okay, so explain that. What is advanced? I always have to put this in terms for Joe Sixpack who's listening. So advanced minimally invasive surgery. Give us some examples.
Sure. So basically that means I know how to do really big surgeries with really small incisions.
I love it. There you go, folks. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Okay, and we'll get back to that, I'm sure. Okay, so Dr. Mazen Al-Mansour, let's talk about where did you grow up and where did you go to med school and how did you end up at Bay State?
So I was actually born in Jordan.
Okay.
I grew up and I went to medical school there. I came to the United States in 2007 where I trained in general surgery at the University of New Mexico at a Bay State Medical Center. I practiced in the area for a while and then I spent some time at the Ohio State University where I trained in advanced minimally invasive surgery with some focus on flexible endoscopy to be used in the surgical world. And I came back to Bay State to join the team. And my practice is very similar to Dr. Wu's, where I do a lot of minimally invasive surgery with the use of the laparoscope and robotic surgery as well.
Okay, and just for those listening who have not heard the term robotic surgery, what does that mean? Does that mean like a robot is doing the surgery and you're having coffee down the hall, or what does that mean? I mean, I can just I can visualize like the listeners going, "What the heck is that?"
So it's basically a nice device that utilizes small incisions connected to a robot that is completely controlled by the surgeon. So the surgeon, instead of being at the patient's bedside holding the instrument, is actually stepping aside. And the instrument is very nice because it's very accurate. The visualization is excellent.
Wow. Yeah.
And you're there in the room, and it's easy to convert to standard laparoscopic if you need to, but most of the time we don't have to.
Now, are you sort of doing that through a computer? I'm trying to visualize this. Through a computer? Is that how you're doing that, or?
There's a surgeon console where it's usually in the side of the room where you sit down. So you actually operate sitting down, which is kind of nice. You look at this 3D high definition camera, and you control every movement of the robot. And whatever your hands do, the robot does inside the patient.
Now, how long has that type of surgery been used?
It started in the early 2000s.
Okay.
But it really took off in the general surgery world within the past 5 years or so.
And are you seeing? Do you think that's sort of where we're headed? I mean, are you seeing that more and more? And I guess, answer that question first. Then I have about 400 other questions about this. But
well, it's one tool.
Yes.
We have a lot of tools, and we try to find out what tool works for which patients.
And I guess that would lead into my next question: is how would you decide if someone? And Dr. Wu, you can jump into this as well. But how would you decide if someone is appropriate for robotic surgery versus non-robotic surgery?
That's a complicated decision made by a surgeon based on a number of factors. What are you operating on? What's the patient's health status? What their previous surgical history is?
Okay.
What do you think, Dr. Wu?
I completely agree. And I think Dr. Al-Mansour probably agrees that for most patients that we see, we try to consider the least invasive method possible with the smallest incisions. And so I personally prefer to use the robot or the laparoscope whenever possible, but there are certain situations, like Dr. Al-Mansour said, when the patient's had numerous surgeries or, has certain medical conditions that wouldn't make them candidates.
Okay. And is the robotic surgery being used more and more with a variety of surgical procedures?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's when robotic surgery was first introduced in the early 2000s, our urologists and our gynecologists were the ones that were mostly using it. The general surgeons felt very comfortable with the laparoscope, which is basically just a straight stick fiber optic camera that we use. We were very, very skilled at that technique, and we didn't feel that we really needed anything else. But as we saw how well the gynecologists and the urologists were doing, the robotic technique really sort of grew and expanded, and now it's really taking off in the general surgery realm as well.
I think it's interesting because I actually had not heard the term until fairly recently, I would say within the last year or two. And it was a friend of mine who had gone to her gynecologist and needed to have some surgery. And that was one of the options that they had talked about. And I was kind of like, what is it? What are you talking about? What is that? I had not heard of it. And so I wasn't sure if it was just used within the scope of, gynecological services or whether, and it sounds like it's being used in other realms as well. So I want to bring in Chris Peterson, who's, we don't want to forget about you, Chris. He's on the low chair here, so if you're watching on Channel 15, you might not be able to get a good view of him. But Chris, I want to get your title right.
I'm the administrative sidekick.
Yes, he is the practice manager for Bay State General Colorectal and Bariatric Surgery. So tell us, what does that mean? Like, first of all, where did you grow up?
I grew up in State College, Pennsylvania. Sorry, Westfield, but the home of Penn State. But
yes,
I do have some local ties in that my wife did graduate from Westfield. So
love Penn State, though. I have to tell you, my husband and I, so this is just a little aside, but my daughter played AAU basketball in about, 10 or 15 years ago. She had a tournament at Penn State. So that was the first time we'd ever, and we're originally I'm from northern New Jersey. So, pretty familiar with Pennsylvania. But anyway, so we went to Penn State. We were there for like 4 or 5 days for this tournament. Just fell in love with it. So both of us were trying to figure out how we could go back for our PhDs at Penn State. It's like, all right, so if we put the house on the market, we quit our jobs, we got to get Grace through college, and can we possibly? We just loved it. We fell in love with it.
It's a great community. It was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, I bet. But now you're here.
I'm here. My wife grew up on the Cape.
Okay.
So we ended up kind of halfway in between, and
all right. It's not exactly halfway, but I think you got the short end of that stick, Chris. But anyway,
slightly.
So, and now tell us about how long have you been at Bay State and what's your role there?
I've been at Bay State about a year and a half.
Okay.
I've been managing surgical practices for about 15 years.
What does that mean? So what do you do? Come on, go to work in the morning. What exactly does that mean?
So obviously the surgeons do their surgery. The patients come into the office. I make sure that we have the staffing available to help them in the office. I make sure that we have all the supplies that we need in the office. I make sure that our office is interacting with all of the larger components of the hospital, the operating room, making sure that things are getting scheduled, a lot of procedural stuff, process things. So that's really, a lot of putting out fires.
I know. I'm listening to this.
Things.
I'm thinking, that actually sounds kind of daunting, to be honest with you, because and now you're at the Springfield. You're at Bay State Medical Center.
I am at Springfield. Yeah.
Is there somebody who does that role at Bay State Noble Hospital? Or?
Yes, Lisa Bruno, who is the practice supervisor here in Noble. She and I work very closely. Obviously, I don't know that we mentioned this, but Dr. Al Mansour practices at both locations. So,
we didn't mention it, so please do.
He is in Westfield at Noble Hospital 1 day a week, either in the office or in the operating room, and obviously working with the staff there. Dr. Wu also practices somewhat at Noble she sees patients mostly in our Springfield office, but does bring them over to Noble to do surgeries on them there. Okay. We utilize whatever facilities are available and appropriate for the patients.
Very good. All right. It is, now that we know who everybody is, where everyone went to school. Wait, where did you go to school, Kristen?
Penn State.
Oh, Penn State, of course. Why even ask that question? All right. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, you have an upcoming hernia clinic, and I really want to focus on that, and I want to talk about what a hernia is, and I understand that there are different types of hernia. So I want to get into all of that. It is 7:32. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses. So I don't want anyone to take, offense at this, but I plugged in, I always try to find songs to match the topics. So I did find a song about hernias, believe it or not. It's called Living with a Hernia. It's by Weird Al Yankovic. So this is my schooling on types of hernias. And at some point, if you get a chance to YouTube it and watch the video, it's pretty hysterical. Go ahead. Ow!
Jones, he took my trousers off,
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646. Discussions of local politics, events, happenings, and miscellany potpourri. Ken's Den, Tuesday, 8 to 10.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman, and I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. We've got a room full of people here. We have producer Pete Coles behind the board. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
We have Westfield State University intern Abby Taylor sitting in the back because that's where she had to sit because we ran out of chairs. Hi, Abby. Just wave from the back. And we have three folks here from Bay State Medical Center. We have Dr. Mazen Al-Mansour, we have Dr. Jacqueline Wu, and we have Chris Peterson, practice manager over at Bay State. So welcome to all of you again. So the topic of the day, now that we know everybody's background and we've talked a little bit about robotic surgery and minimally invasive surgery, but you have, one of the things that I really want to focus on this morning is you have a free hernia screening coming up at Bay State Noble Hospital on Monday, October 15th at 5:30 p.m. So I want to talk a little bit about hernias, what exactly a hernia is, the fact that now Weird Al has explained to us that we have multiple types of hernias, so we need to probably talk a little bit about that. And then also about the program on October 15th and sort of what you hope to accomplish. So let's start with one of the docs talking to us about what is a hernia exactly?
Well, in the simplest terms, a hernia is a hole. And I like to explain it to my patients who come in that it's a hole in your muscle tissue, and some people are born with it, and sometimes it can happen either after a surgery or after a traumatic event. But in the simplest of terms, it's a hole.
You know what, Dr. Wu, thank you for explaining that, because I have asked multiple people over the years, well, what exactly is a hernia? And I've gotten all these really long explanations and, diagrams and pictures. And I'm like, okay, but I still... Is it, that your muscle stretches? Is it still like what? And okay, so it's a hole. Thank you. That's easy. And but there are different types, right? So how many different types of hernias are there, and where are they, and how does that happen?
So you can get a hernia pretty much anywhere.
Okay.
You can get them on the front of your belly. You can get them in the back. You can get them in the belly button or in the groin. The most common places to get them are in your groin and in the belly button. Because we're a surgical practice, we also see a lot of hernias that arise from previous incisions. So the incisions either don't heal appropriately or open back up after time, and that can create a hole as well.
So that was from presumably from a surgery that someone had some previous surgery?
Correct.
So it was a ramification of that.
Right.
Would that happen right after the surgery? Is that something that might develop down the road? Either one of you?
It can happen anytime after surgery. Most of them become apparent within the first 2 years or so.
Okay.
But it can happen also immediately after surgery.
And so I want to follow up with a question, Doctor, on how does it become apparent? Like, how would somebody know that they have a hernia?
So the most common symptom of a hernia is a bulge. So patients oftentimes report that something is sticking out.
Can they see it, or can they feel it, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Sometimes it can just be visible. A lot of times it is uncomfortable, and sometimes it is painful.
Yeah.
And one of the things that patients often describe is that if they press on it, it goes back in. And that's usually
so it's
correct.
A bulge so it's something that's sticking out of muscular, and if they press on it, you can actually push it back in?
Well, what happens is the muscles are supposed to keep our insides in.
Okay.
So when there's a hole in the muscle, our insides poke through, and when you apply pressure to it, it usually
you're pushing it back.
Correct.
So what are some of the things that are poking through? I'm afraid to ask.
It could be a lot of things.
Okay.
Most commonly, the intestines.
Yep.
Or fatty tissue, but sometimes it's other organs like the bladder. In
Okay.
rare situations, it's something like the liver.
Wow.
But any organ can really protrude. Rarely we see appendix protruding through a hernia or the ovaries in women.
Wow. Okay. So if somebody experiences something like that, I mean, clearly I would think in most cases they would go see start with their primary care physician. But what happens after that typically? Who does the assessment? And who's the primary physician going to refer the person to?
So you're correct. Typically, the patient goes to see their primary care physician first, and they'll do a physical exam and see if they can push the hernia contents back in, like Dr. Al-Mansour said. Sometimes it's actually not very obvious if a patient has a hernia. The patient may report that they feel a bulge, but due to different factors, either we can't get a good exam because they're in a lot of pain, or sometimes if the patient's obese, we don't get a good exam.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, sometimes we'll do either an ultrasound or a CAT scan to get a better idea. It can be done through the primary care, or if the primary care doctor doesn't feel comfortable, they'll often just refer the patient to a general surgeon or a hernia specialist, which Dr. Al-Mansour and I both are hernia specialists.
Okay. So the referral would go to a surgeon,
Correct.
not like a gastrointestinal person or something.
Correct.
Okay. So a surgeon. All right. So now depending on, as you were saying, Dr. Wu, so depending on the situation, you're either going to do a physical exam or maybe a CAT scan or an ultrasound. So once you determine what exactly is going on, and let's say the person does have some type of hernia, I'm guessing, but I don't know, so enlighten me. Are there different degrees of how bad a hernia is?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's talk about that.
So hernias can definitely range in size and severity. You can have a teeny tiny little belly button hernia that's only a few millimeters, to what we consider giant hernias that encompass the entire abdominal wall.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yes.
And then depending on the size and the severity, if it's the first time they've had a hernia, or hernias sometimes can come back after they've been fixed. So depending on the severity, you can either have an outpatient surgery, or you may need a complex abdominal wall reconstruction, which both Dr. Al-Mansour and I perform.
Wow. And okay. Wow. Okay. So when you've diagnosed it and you've determined how severe it is, how much time elapses between the time that you've determined that the person has a hernia, they need surgery? Well, first of all, how do you decide if they need surgery or not? Because does every hernia require surgery?
Not necessarily. We take a lot of factors into the decision to operate on a hernia. Surgery is the only treatment for a hernia. So you either live with the hernia, like Weird Al said, or you have surgery for it. And
so there's no non-surgical intervention that's going to repair a hernia.
That's correct.
Okay, you can't go to physical therapy and you strengthen your muscles, and that's not going to happen.
That is correct.
Okay, so you're either going to live with it or you're going to have surgery. So how do you determine, doctor, whether or not somebody is a surgical candidate?
Well, that also, a lot of factors play into this.
Sure, of course.
Number one is how symptomatic the hernia is.
Okay.
So if it's causing significant discomfort, or it's interfering with the patient's ability to live their life as they wish, then that would be a reason to fix the hernia.
Okay.
Now, another thing that we take into the consideration is how risky the hernia is.
Okay.
One of the things we worry about is complications, particularly incarceration and strangulation. And what these mean is that if there's intestines going through a small hole, sometimes the hole can pinch the intestines shut, leading to blockage of the intestines, or it can sometimes compromise the circulation to the intestines.
Yep.
These are surgical emergencies.
Yeah.
So certain hernias with certain characteristics are risky, and for these we would recommend surgery even if they're not all that symptomatic.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So it can be a high risk situation, but the person may not have the severe pain and the severe symptoms.
Correct. Until it's too late.
Right. Obviously. Wow. Okay.
The other thing that also plays into it is how healthy the patient is. A 90-year-old who has a lot of health problems oftentimes better to live with their hernias than to go through a risky operation.
Sure.
Based on their risks.
And of course, that's true with any surgery. I mean, when age is one factor, but as you said, there are other health risks as well. So I mean that's something that. Do you kind of, as surgeons, are you the ones that sort of walk the person and the family through that process of weighing the pros and cons? Do you feel like that's part of your role and responsibility?
Oh, definitely. That's actually a very big discussion that we have in the office with the patient, and it definitely goes into how we decide what we're going to do. And the patient, it's a dialogue between the patient, and it's not just us telling the patient what we're going to do for the patient, but they have to be in agreement, and they have to understand what we're recommending and why we're recommending it. So it's a large portion of our office visit with the patient.
Okay. All right. I have lots of other questions, but we're going to take a break. It is 7:46. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. We'll take a short break. We're going to talk about some other some treatments, and then also I want to talk a little bit about post-surgical and what people can expect. Talk more about the hernia clinic coming up. This is in honor of Eddie Cochran's the late Eddie Cochran's birthday. This is his hit "Summertime Blues." We'll be back.
I'm gonna raise a holler about working all summer just to try to earn a dollar. Every time I call my baby, try to get a date, my boss says,
no die, son, you gotta work late.
Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime blues. Mom and Papa told me, son, you gotta make some money. If you wanna use a car to go a ride next Sunday. Oh, well, I didn't go to work, told the boss I was sick.
Now you can't use a car cause you didn't work a leg.
Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime blues. Take 2 weeks, gonna have a fine vacation. I'm gonna take my problem to the United Nations. Well, I called my congressman and he said, quote,
I'd like to help you, son, but you're too young to vote.
Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime blues.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly. We thank the generosity of our underwriters. For more information, please contact the Westfield State Foundation at 413-572-8646.
Discussions of local politics, events, happenings, and miscellany potpourri. That's what you'll find on Ken's Den, Tuesdays from 8 till 10.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. It is Wednesday, October 3rd, 56 degrees outside, going up to about 72. And I think it's supposed to clear today. Is that right, Pete? I think we're not.
Yeah. As we go through the day, it's going to get a little bit better. We might get some sun.
Yes, sun would be good. I want to go for a run after work, so I need some sun. It is 7:51, and my guests this morning we have three guests from Bay State Medical Center and Bay State Noble Hospital. We have Dr. Mazen Al-Mansour, Dr. Jacqueline Wu. They are both surgeons. And we have Chris Peterson, practice manager with Bay State General Colorectal and Bariatric Surgery. So the topic of the day is hernias. And I have to say I'm learning a lot because I never really exactly understood what a hernia is, other than the fact that you don't want to have one. But we were talking before the break about, sort of degrees, that there are degrees. Some are smaller and less, intrusive in terms of your activities of daily living, but some are, people have a lot of symptoms. And then as Dr. Al-Mansour was saying, some people don't have a lot of symptoms, but they still can be very at risk depending on the type of surgery. So let's assume that someone does have surgery that, Dr. Wu, you were talking before the break about making that decision with somebody, helping them to make the decision as to whether they're going to go the surgical route. And let's assume that they do. So what happens? And I realize every hernia is different. There are different types of hernias and different severity. But generally speaking, what happens after the surgery? Are there certain precautions the person has to take? Is there rehab? What happens?
So for the large majority of the hernias that we fix, they're day surgeries, meaning the patient comes in, we fix the hernia, and they go home the same day. Okay. And one of the reasons why we're able to do this is our minimally invasive techniques for surgery. So Dr. Al-Mansour and I both do laparoscopic as well as robotic hernia repairs.
And what is laparoscopic? What does that mean?
So a laparoscope is a small fiber optic camera that we can insert through a special trocar or a device into the abdomen to take a look around.
Okay.
We blow the belly up full of carbon dioxide so that we have room for these instruments. But our instruments are very small, so they're only about 5 millimeters to 10 millimeters in diameter.
Wow.
So they're very small. And because these incisions are so small, our patients don't have a lot of pain after the surgery. So they're able to go home a couple of hours after the surgery.
And then when they go home following surgery, what are they not allowed to do, or what should they do? And can they eat? Are they allowed to? I just feel like, are they allowed to do that?
So they really have minimal.
Wait a minute, you've just had surgery. You're not going to want to eat.
Well,
No.
So there are very minimal restrictions after surgery.
Okay.
You can eat and drink whatever you want.
Okay.
You're right. Most people don't have much of an appetite for the first day or so after surgery. We encourage a lot of walking, and we make sure that the patient can walk around before they are discharged from the recovery room. And there's a range of restrictions depending on where the surgeon trained and what the surgeon's personal preferences is. So I do restrict my patients from heavy lifting for a few weeks. And I was just talking to Dr. Al-Mansour on the break. He does not. And again, there's a very large range. You'll see the full spectrum.
Sure. And now you mentioned before, so I want to come back to that sometimes people have to have a second surgery. So why might that be?
There are a lot of different reasons for why they might need a second surgery. Oftentimes it's because the hernia comes back.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain characteristics or certain medical conditions that may put a patient at higher risk.
Okay. So they're kind of more predisposed to sort of a second incident.
Exactly.
Okay.
So smokers, diabetics, those are our biggest, our highest risk groups.
Okay. All right. So I want to bring Chris Peterson into this. Chris is practice manager for all of these surgeons and surgeries. So Chris, the idea of the hernia clinic was your brainstorm, correct?
Not necessarily, but
okay.
I've done this in practices where I've been before. So
okay. So let's talk about this because this is coming up. We have a free hernia screening and clinic on Monday, October 15th at 5:30 at Bay State Noble Hospital.
We do. It's right inside the new main lobby that is nicely reopened.
Gorgeous
here.
main lobby.
It was in June that they dedicated that and opened that up. But our objective really is as the physicians have said, many physicians don't even realize, or many patients don't even realize that they have a hernia, that they may have a pain here or there. They may, play tennis and be like, oh, it kind of hurts on my abdomen every once in a while, but it may not be consistent all the time. And they don't really know what's causing it. A lot of people obviously don't like to go to their primary care physician.
Sure.
Our goal here is to really educate. The physicians will do about 15 to 20 minutes of education of the types of hernias, much like what they're talking about with some diagrams, a little PowerPoint, some sort of educational material for patients, so they get a kind of a broad spectrum of what a hernia is. And then they'll actually come in and meet with one-on-one with one of the surgeons in a very quick kind of evaluation of, yep, I believe you have a hernia. If someone is believed to have a hernia, or they find a hernia, obviously we'd ask them to come back and actually make a true appointment with a physician, where the physician can go over all the risks and benefits and everything, as Dr. Wu said, and try and make the decision as to what we need to do about it. Again, this is something that is relatively new to Bay State. I don't know that we've done any of these free screenings before. We wanted to begin here at Noble and hopefully spread this out through the rest of the Bay State systems.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love it. I think it's great. There's no charge for this, right? I mean, for attendance, but you do need to call and register for this. They are looking for registration is required because it's Bay State Noble Hospital. It's not like this huge hospital, so they need to have their numbers in order. So if you're interested in that, the phone number is 572-6010. We will have the flyer on the clinic on the bulletin board at the senior center. We will have copies that Chris gave me at the greeter's desk for those who are interested in this. We're really going to promote this because I think I'm a firm believer, and this whole radio show is on health and wellness. It's all about being proactive. And so we don't want to wait until, Dr. Al-Mansour was talking about those emergency cases where, you're cutting off an intestine and not even realizing that you had this problem. So I think it's important that people get the information. I think the one thing that the clinic will really help people with that we couldn't do on the radio is, you'll have some visuals. And I'm so much of a visual person, so it's helpful to me to sort of see diagrams and, to say, okay, that's what it looks like. Now I get it. So I think this is a fabulous clinic. Again, it's Monday, October 15th at 5:30. Chris, you look like you were going to say something. You forgot what you were going to say.
No, I mean, really, the reality is that visually you'll be able to talk a little bit more about the types of hernias and how those kind of happen. And I think, you may just be interested in understanding and learning more about it. And
right, even if you don't think even if you don't think that you have one, I think I just think it sounds fascinating and really interesting.
So actually, I would planning to have some short videos as well of the procedure, just that patients would understand what laparoscopic surgery is all about, what robotic surgery is all about. And I think another, so the main focus of this is educating our patients about what a hernia is and what kind of surgery are done for it. But it's also, we're trying to reach out to the Westfield community because having Bay State Noble Hospital is a fantastic institution and allows us to come over and provide these services right then and there for the community so they don't have to travel across the river.
Yes, and all of my older adults love to hear that they don't have to travel across the river, and that they want everything to be offered in Westfield. And we've, Pete and I have talked about it on the radio show before. Westfield has so much to offer with having, our own hospital, our own university, our own YMCA, our own senior center, and Athenaeum, and so forth. But the hospital is just an amazing resource. So I think for people to know, which I have to say, even I didn't know that this type of surgery is performed right here at Bay State Noble is great news.
Yeah,
great news for us.
I performed several laparoscopic hernia repairs at Bay State Noble over the past few months. There's still some cases where you want to be done in a larger multidisciplinary hospital, and this affiliation or, having Bay State Noble part of the Bay State Health System overall allows us to take these patients over. You still have the same doctors, you have the multidisciplinary team, you have the resources of Bay State Medical Center to be provided for these patients. And I oftentimes follow these patients up in the Bay State Noble Clinic. So it's nice to have this venue for us to come over.
Right. So even if they do need to have the surgery over at Bay State Medical Center, you can do the follow up here at Bay State Noble Hospital.
Yes,
so
I have
local.
done that.
Yeah,
and if I just want to,
Sure.
one little point of clarification is that Bay State Noble Hospital does not have a robot at this point in time. So
Okay.
any of the robotic surgeries that we're talking about would need
be
to be
done
done
at
over at the
main
mothership
campus.
Yeah, we actually currently have 2 robots and have received funding to purchase a 3rd robot. And those are well over $1 million a piece. So those are not cheap instruments to bring.
So we
in
need to start our fundraising here at in Westfield. We'll get Ron Bryan on the show, and we're all about that. You know, we'll take on that cause. I want to thank my guests this morning from Bay State Medical Center, Dr. Jacqueline Wu, Dr. Mazen Al-Mansour, and Chris Peterson. Again, the topic has been hernias and the upcoming hernia clinic, which will be Monday, October 15th at 5:30 at Bay State Noble Hospital. If you're interested, you can call 572-6010. We will have the flyers over at the Senior Center, or give me a call over there and we'll get you more information. Thanks so much. Coming up is Denny Akins and Mayor Brian. What? Who? You're waving. Oh, wave. Denny's waving. I thought you were signaling me like, no. Amber Danahy.
Yes.
Mayor, yes, no.
He's,
Mayor
off
show.
today.
Oh, Mayor. Okay, so but they are going to be discussing all things Westfield. So
Yes.
Denny and Amber coming up. I will see you next week with Health Director Joe Rouse.